So this is a quick video response to that. I think this is a great video called "Why I Think the Atheist-Theist Debate is a Waste of Space." I think that was shot here by Boundlesseyes. I really thought that was just, again, a great video. So much of it right-minded, especially the oddness of, who cares? Why would someone even waste the time to engage in someone who wants to dogmatically hold to what are either myths that need to be understood mythically or outdated relics that are being, completely misunderstood? Not to say that people shouldn't have freedom of speech. I mean, I think the balance that Boundlesseyes here is accomplished in addressing the nuance of, yes, give people a recognition, but also see yourself when you're shooting fish in a barrel. Realize that that isn't part of the important, everyday, the way that people live their everyday life. If you want to get at the way people live their everyday life, try to get at what I would say are the significant issues. It has to do with death fear. And it's not just, oh, I'm scared I'm going to die, but it's that because people are aware of the fact that they're going to die, their life has a meaning. People yearn for some kind of meaning because they're self-reflexively aware and they're aware of their own death. And unfortunately, in modern Western culture, it has become nothing but consumer capitalism. People think that their lives will be somehow secured as meaningful if it fits into the narratives that they have grown up in, and those narratives are of the happily ever after, and I'm richer than other people, and if I have a world that's filled with nice, fancy things, I'll be happy. That's the illusion. Not only do I agree with Boundlesseyes that people should turn away from these stupid, ridiculous, almost you're never going to answer them debates, and move toward what does it mean to collectively be aware of the fact that we are the cosmos itself. What science tells us, the more that we move towards science, is that there's never been a person independent of the entire cosmos. Yeah, each person is something that the cosmos is doing, and each person is a local manifestation of the cosmos becoming aware of itself. The task is for people to look past their eyes and to know what the ear can hear, which is the truth of language. The truth of language is that we're all connected, and we form one community, the community of the dying. And it's not just through our language, right? This wonderful book by Alfonso Lingus on the community of those who have nothing in common. It's the bustle and the noise, it's the rasp, it's the stutter, it's the stammer, it's all of the ways that we are part of the noise of the world. This is what we all share, not just what we're able to agree upon by way of community and code. I think there's so many wonderful discussions that could be had about not private property as let's get rid of it, but to say what kind of a bankrupt life script is it to think that money and accumulationism and private property are the real meaning of happiness. I mean, it's Christmas here. I think for those who celebrate such things and they want to recognize Christmas, I think they should think back to winter solstice. Try to see what was happening there, right? Winter solstice, winter was setting in, fall was gone, the abundance of fall, all of the food that was made available was shrinking up, and people, seeing scarcity on the rise, still felt the need to give. And they felt the need to give, you know why? Because they felt the obligation to the larger powers, and they gave oftentimes leaving things for the gods, for the mysterious powers, for the source of energy that provided that to begin with. People felt, I think, some sort of guilt for taking without giving back. And the notion of giving back was to keep the power circulating. Somehow, all of that stuff got caught into what became the Christ mythos, right? If you look at someone like Ernest Becker, what Becker would say is that the accumulated guilt from private property and possession was so great, it was so great in the ancient world that many people believed that it was going to have the end of the world was the only possible way to have this sort of make up for the institution of private property. the sort of guilt that had accumulated from all of it, and the tyranny, the sort of the injustices that humans had subjected themselves to. And it happened slowly over thousands of years. They came to awareness of it. But as they came to awareness of it, they felt a great amount of guilt. There was no way to easily atone for it. And so what did they imagine? Some sort of supernatural, fantastical sacrifice that was going to make up for it. And now today, we have this mix match of these bizarre things. So this fella named Jesus, who was God's son, comes down and is sacrificed to make amends for sins that humans have committed, and that's why Santa comes and puts presents under the tree. When you start to look at the mismatch of all of the symbolisms of the baby Jesus birth and of Santa and all of this, it starts to become very apparent. I think is, again, it was so wonderful in Boundlesseyes' video where she talks about going and wanting to participate in collective song, because collective song and the ritual, these sort of transcendent rituals that are ancient, are more than just petty consumer individualist capitalism. I think it's unfortunate that today we live in a largely acquisitive, private property, individualist-based orientation in so many aspects throughout our lives, right? It's funny, in Europe, you're giving some comparisons of European to U.S. In Europe, I think, generally, in many cultures, in many countries there, if a child is out of line, the adult corrects the child and says, hey, you're out of line. It says, and again, there's this relation there between adult and child. Here in the U.S., private property is now so far extended that an adult can't even correct an out-of-line child. Some child will be doing something completely out of line in a store. A person will come over and say, hey, you should behave. A parent will come over and say, hey, don't you tell my child what to do. My child will do whatever he wants to do, whatever she wants to do. This notion of private property, the institutions of private property, it's not to say let's go the way of radical communism. I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating that we recognize the kinds of inequity, the kinds of injustice that come from private property, recognize all the factors that are outside of our control that bear upon those, everything from happenstance and luck to medical unfortunate, accidents, things that happen, but to really recognize that we are animals who are deeply indebted, and our indebtedness makes us need to give gifts. And the notion of giving gifts and caring about strangers, I think this is what's so fascinating about the human condition. I'm not sure the degree to which other animals feel indebted to the world and recognize the world as a gift. I think humans, to the extent that we want to say we're talking about the human essence of the human spirit, they seem to be a kind of gift-giving, gift-receiving animal. Now, do other animals, higher primates, have some sort of gift? Yes, they may. Do they see life itself, including their own life, as a gift? I don't know. I think for animals, if they do see it as a gift, they seem to think that the only way to continue the gift-giving is to have progeny. And again, there would be lots of questions about whether or not animals are that concerned over their grandkids and or their lines of progeny. I think we do want to say for at least many, many centuries, thousands of years, humans have been very concerned with this. But I think it's more than that. The more that we start to realize that we are part of culture and that we're part of language, we start to realize, I think, that there's different ways of getting transcendence and giving gifts. It's not just about passing off your genes into the next generation by procreation. It's also by giving gifts that transcend your death. It's by giving to the world in such a way that others can benefit even when you're long gone. Okay, so Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks.